get off of my lawn. Hey, you, get off of my lawn. Hey, you, get off. Hi, everybody. Aaron Fisher here today with Alex Slemmer, Steve Barcelona, and Ethan Fisher from Conjuror Community, the world's best magic club. Today, we're going to be looking at the amazing visual postmodern work of the great magician and mentalist Gary Kurtz. And all we ask, all we request, all we want in this whole wide world in exchange for this incredible information is that you quickly hit that fantabulous follow button and the salacious subscribe button so you'll be notified every time we go live with more of this shenanigans and awesomeness. Gary Kurtz, Alex Slemmer, as my old friend Jeff Milkey used to say, rebuttal.
Rebuttal. Well, I have no rebuttal. I'll just say that we'll continue our look at Gary Kurtz. And actually, specifically, we're going to get into something that's Gary's pretty well known for, and that's his coin magic. We sort of had a little bit of a taste of it in the last episode, and we looked at Flurious. This is getting into more of traditional effects that you would see with large coins being held in the air. You know, so we're going to get into a little bit more of
large coins, meaning jumbos or just silver dollars, because he was doing it thing, right?
Yeah, last one we saw him do these changes, which were fabulous changes from a silver dollar to a jumbo coin, and eventually to a really giant jumbo coin. And this is more traditional, just coin magic using silver dollars, and it influenced a lot of people. A lot of the stuff that you're going to see, it influenced a lot of people and changed the course of a lot of coin magic. So it's good stuff.
This stuff is embedded in the conception of what we call the St. Louis universe. Is it related?
Yeah, to me, it seems like those two things were going neck and neck with each other. Kurtz was definitely a mover and shaker. He was doing it from Canada. The St. Louis thing was its own beast, but they definitely were.
They read a lot of his notes.
I think they were just swimming in a lot of the same concepts. I don't know if they were necessarily reading each other's notes. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, but definitely similar concepts. And some folks say that there is maybe a neck and neck, idea in what's happening with the innovation of three fly proper, that Gary might have been there. Chris might have been there.
There it was. Well, we'll find out, right? Now we're saying, okay. He's given us a hint. Alex is a very non-confrontational guy, so you've got to listen for it. But one wants to know sometimes where's the beef, and one listens carefully. Alex will be like, he's from California. There's no beef. But there might be a little. There it was. There it was. That was the Alex alert. There's the beef.
It's shaved very thin, but beef nonetheless.
That's right. Or as they used to say in Chicago Magic, I'd like a hot beef. I'd like a beef, sweet and hot. For a minute, when Timmy Felix said this, go say that when I was at the sandwich shop. I was like, are you sure the lady's not going to hit me? He said, no, that's what you have to say, or else she will look at you funny. So I said, all right, give me a beef, ma'am, sweet and hot. And she just nodded like she knew what that was, and then she brought me the sandwich. So
he wasn't steering you wrong. He was being your friend.
What more do you want?
It's great.
You say a few words and someone brings you a sandwich. It sounds like heaven to me.
Then he said, hide these guns for me. That's another story. So let's get it going, and we'll talk on the way. Extra points if you can spot Gary's thumb.
Yes, folks, it's the Wayne Gretzky of comedy and magic. I know Dick all about hockey, but I figure Wayne knows weenie about hypnotizing chickens. So I think I'm okay. Start my set by doing an illusion which has been known to seduce entire cultures. An illusion more appealing than power politics or the fundamentalist preachings of Jimmy and Tammy Faye Baker. Talking about money. I don't have to beg, borrow, or steal, as magicians often do. I will create from the alchemical flame. I will create my own. Hey, I'm impressed. That's an 1881 Morgan silver dollar. An illusion of quality. Not only that, but a self-perpetuating illusion, because money in the hands of the fortunate and the talented. Money Money. In turn, he gets even more money.
Nice.
Bad way to make a living. Yeah. He's working at McDonald's is what I'm trying to say. After this coins have been, that's 3 turn of the century pure silver dollars. Really. Actually, not really. They have a tendency to vanish as easily as they came. Fact of life. Yeah.
Stop it there.
But not a serious fact. I can just as easily start again. There's one.
Maybe in a moment.
2, which becomes 3, returning me to my former affluence. Keeping in mind that affluence is a relative thing, and I'm a relatively easy guy to please. Just ask my wife. Actually, she's not back there. You'll have to take my word for it. At this point, the coins have been appearing and disappearing, or at least appearing to appear and disappear. I'll now make them appear to travel from one place to another, from here to here. Ooh. That's the first coin having gone from left to right, like a breeze blowing gently from east to west, like the sun passing from one horizon to another, like the mood of a manic depressive shifting from happiness to hope. There are allusions to go with the illusions. All right, 1 down, 2 to go, which as you stare becomes 2 that end. Really. 2 down, 1 to go, and go it does. Like a mirage and the others. Thank you. At this point, allow me to go back to before we had a 3rd coin. I was using just 2. Of course, if we go back before we had a 2nd coin, before we had a 2nd coin, we had only 1. Take it back any further, of course, all we'll have is a memory misty. Thank you. Any questions? So much talent, and still from Canada. Moving right along, a pack of cards.
Stop the video, please.
So far I know, but for me, a pack.
Hey,
Misty like a dream.
those look funny.
So, wow, I cannot. Those are silver dollar size coins, Alex?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You said Morgan's. I was thinking the same thing. They look so small in his hand. They look like $50.
He's a tall.
I hate to be the magic guy who is always bringing up the mitts of some of these guys, but this man has even bigger hands than the last guy.
Imagine if he was using $50. It'd be tough to see all that.
It looked like quarters.
Absolutely no opportunity for, I mean, those are big hands. And I couldn't help but notice that's a big jacket he's wearing too.
I've noticed the fit there of the jacket is,
it's not great.
To be desired.
Would you say, Alex, that was dictated largely by the kinds of things he was using for his magic?
Yes, definitely had that coat and the vest specifically made. And I agree that they don't lay properly. After spending a lot of money on clothes, you realize what clothes are supposed to look like, and that's not right. But I think that those clothes are made for methodology, right? He's doing loads. He's doing, he's stealing giant. He's that giant jumbo coin, right? He has to carry that. He's standing when he's doing that magic, and that, jumbo coin turns into a jumbo coin. It's got to come from somewhere, and it's not the briefcase. So he has custom clothes to make effects happen, and I think somewhere in there seems like the translation got a little muddy.
It's
but
just,
yeah, I agree.
The stuff is beautiful. The stuff is beautiful to see. It's just these things kind of stick out contextually to me. It's very fancy stuff, I think magicians, a lot of sleight of hand artists really liked it because you don't see real new sleight of hand combinations that often. Most of the time, sleight of hand is very ancient with very minor differences, and he has a lot of sequences where he's doing equipments and things. He's doing a lot of stuff where he's taking one thing and he's putting it over here, but while he's doing that, he's also moving some baggage, So he's got a whole bank in his hand, and he's
trying to do that under the guise of, see, there's nothing.
Right. So this hand's empty. Look, and that hand's empty. But meanwhile, under that process, so many things moved, you know, that magicians went gaga because they'd never seen a lot of these palms and things before. It's called an equipment. Is there another word for that? An equipment changeover? We're talking about equipments and changeovers. So there you go. So what would
That's the only other word I can think of someone would use to refer to those as a change, you know. But yeah, I think that's proper terminology.
And this certainly reminds us, you know, we had that wonderful Nathan Kranzo workshop a few months ago where we really dug for the members, for the CC Club members. CC Club, greatest magic club in the universe, where we asked Nathan to go deep into the coin structure. And it felt to me like we were looking at, you know, the grandchildren and evolutions of things that Gary Kurtz was playing with in this routine. Would you be able to say anything about that, Alex?
I think it's totally true. And another thing about this is remember that this is an innovation, what we're watching right now. Before you see Gary do this, the years before, right before Gary Kurtz was known, you're seeing coin magic like this, right? Coin magic in Gary's situation is going up to this, where you're having this be the show position, where you're holding coins at your fingertips, apparently empty palms. That's a new way of doing things. And in doing that, you mentioned the St. Louis crew. They were doing that same sort of thing. Troy Hoosier specifically, Chris Kenner, Homer Lewag, they were doing the same sort of magic. And some of the techniques are very similar to each other. But I think when you look at something like going from a profound change of here's the magic to here's the magic, things are going to occur to you, and different things occurred to Gary than occurred to that crew of guys. So you can see that there are definitely differences, but there are a lot of similarities because they're all headed towards the same goal of, you know, making coins vanish, making coins go across, right? Making coins appear. All of those effects are in there. And it's just basically the minor variations of these little techniques that are making that happen, but obviously expert level, right? They thought about these things, ironed them out to the point that they became these invisible pieces. You know, the reason that we're even saying these guys' names, you know, this many years later, because these things really changed coin magic. You know, now it's very commonplace to see someone hold coins like this. But, you know, at that time, that was an odd thing. It was new.
It was groundbreaking.
I would say it's the standard now, right? It is absolutely the standard. I'm going to ask Steve a question, a very special question for Steve after we watch the hanging coin. But let's just...
There's actually a second half to this Misty Like a Dream.
Oh, because we still have the card. We still have the card stuff coming.
Well, yes.
What looks like that? Sure.
Yes.
Look, then this is my question. I'm going to save it for Steve. But one question: what we've seen so far, just to be clear, because you know what? Not going to lie, Gary Kurtz's magic is a lot of it is very. This stuff is very magician's magic. The flurriest thing. It's not that it's a wonderful trick. But we just have to be aware if we're even watching this right here, deep down in the long tail of YouTube or wherever you're watching it. It is part of what makes it interesting is that you've seen stuff like it and it's taking that stuff further, right? You've seen a jumbo coin production. Now he's taking that further, for example. So there's so few effects in coin magic. Really, did we just see the one at a time appearance and disappearance of 3 coins? Is that what that was?
And then they went across. Yeah.
So actually,
and then he vanished them again at the end of all of that.
So exactly, they came from nothing. He appeared them. He made them go across, and he disappeared them.
He produced them one at a time, vanished them one at a time, produced them again, made them go across one at a time, and then vanished them. And that's where we're at in the routine at this moment.
All right, let's finish her off.
Cool.
Thank you. Any questions? I know so much talent. Moving right along, a pack of cards. Highly original so far, I know, but for me, a pack of cards is like a musical instrument. So many songs to be played on them, and I'm going to play you some of my favorites. Tune just keeps coming back. I won't use those. I'll use instead these 3 here. Actually, I won't use those either. I'll use instead this one here, this one here, while I'm amusing myself and hopefully some of you. This one here. You can clap. That was hard. Yeah. Thank you. Actually, at this point, you're probably wondering how it is that these 3 coins are different from the ones I placed in my pocket a second ago, right? Very simple. These speak a different language, practice Buddhism. Oh, yeah. That is clear, right, Robert? Coins I put in my pocket a second ago were those pure turn-of-the-century silver dollars. These here are Chinese. You can tell by the hole in the middle, the indecipherable writing on them. It's not all that indecipherable. Took them to a friend of mine speaking weak Chinese. I said, "What's your CA?" She said, I said, "What's that mean?" She said, "Play money for American tourists." Anyway, you, Gary, because to know you is to love you, I will change the first coin back into a silver dollar. For you, because to know you very well is still to love you. I'll change the second coin back into a silver dollar. The last coin, for no particular reason, just because I can. The last coin back to a silver dollar. Thank you. But quite frankly, I don't know about you. I kind of like the Chinese coins better. Thank you. Thank you.
This is definitely material. I mean, that was so magical looking, but you're talking about an incredibly skilled guy taking all of the craziest, most beautiful techniques, stuff that we associate these days with guys like Noah Harbottle, Danny Goldsmith, or as Kanoa called him, the coin Jesus.
Coin Jesus.
Me. And he's taking all that stuff. And this is already how many years ago? 20, 30 years ago?
At least, yeah.
And so Gary Kurtz, it's very, very meta, you know, because he's definitely taking these routines and he's taking them 2 steps further than they're supposed to go for a lay audience. Like there's no situation in the world where you would ever do that many phases of a coin routine for a lay audience. And I think, I'm guessing Gary Kurtz would be the first person to tell you that. But, you know, I used to ask Nathan Kranzo about this all the time because he was, for my money, he was just one of the best coin guys in the universe, and he really understood. And we used to do the lecture tour circuit together, and I would be like, Nathan, how much of this is like for the real show? And he goes, well, any 2 minutes of it, but you know,
That's it.
So like where Gary Kurtz is at the end, he's like, you know, where he's done this whole thing and then he takes the silvers and he turns them into Chinese coins and they turns them back into silver coins and he turns them into, well, we consider stuff like that to be an exercise, and it's great and it's wonderful and magicians go crazy over it. But regular folk, they can't possibly process that much effect. Like once you had me at, they're gone, they're back.
That's right. They tune out at a certain point.
After they change, like you can tack one big weird kicker onto the end of something. But in real life, it's best normally if it feels like a separate trick. And so, you know, we are watching magicians' magic, and that's not, I think Alex and Steve, it would be easy to hear that as a negative statement or a critical statement. It's not. It's just so that we can see this stuff in perspective. Steve?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're watching him lecture a bunch of magicians, essentially, is what I think. I think he's doing the effect here. I don't know where this video comes from, but I think he's doing the effect. He's going to do the explanation after, like we've all seen 1,000 times. What I like about what his stuff is like pretty direct, you know, and he has pretty non-magical hands, which is something I always look for. So it's not a lot of like arthritis fingers, you know. It's just what needs to be there, and it's just very direct, and I think what you're saying is true. It's like I can't imagine doing, like I can imagine doing a card set for a group. I couldn't imagine doing an entire coin set.
You remember
I don't think it works that way.
Remember when they applauded, and he laughed and he said, "It's all right, you can applaud. That was hard."
Yeah, you wouldn't
say. Like he's doing stuff in this set that is built for this kind of instructional tape. Or I don't know, Alex, you know, you've often told me that in the guitar world they have guitar clinics.
Oh yeah.
And I guess Steve, you're a guitar expert as well, so you know all about this. And Alex was telling me that guitar clinics is sort of the guitar equivalent of your magic lecture of the old days. It's the closest analog to it, right?
They're showing method. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
It's all method and how I came up with this.
Do you find that when the guitar players do that, they bring all kinds of special licks that are for guitar dorks, or do they just bring their professional?
Unintentionally. I think with guitar, you end up practicing so many different scale patterns, so many different types of little phrases and things that you're bringing together that inform what you finally do, that there's all kinds of, without even trying, there's like just stuff leaking out. It's just sort of jumping out of you. It feels a lot like what this is with the you know, the coin guys, like, because this, let's be honest, the whole Misty Like a Dream, the coins across, all of that stuff was sort of talked about in hush until it was put on video. And this was when it was put on video so that folks could see what it was. If you were one of those people that were fortunate enough to be at one of these conventions, one of these lectures where you actually got to see Gary do all of this stuff. And I think this was as much about getting the record correct with all of the stuff as anything else. You know what I mean?
Which is important.
It feels to me that the aspect of this magic that we're talking about, it's almost like when you're dealing with a virtuoso sleight of hand guy who likes to do all his licks and stuff. Because really, these are like routine licks, you know? It's like he's got a switch and he's going to turn that switch into an effect, you know? And he's sort of,
he's trying to showcase all those clever switches that he's come up with. And this is the context that he can show those off in, right?
And it feels to me a little bit like with these virtuoso sleight of hand guys, it feels a little bit more like guitars and playing around with scales and things. It feels a lot like leading people through.
Going back to source code and playing with source code, see if you can find some variation that influences something new.
Yeah, you know, and it feels a lot like stuff that is the outgrowth of practice itself. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's all been sort of routine together through.
And I hate to beat a dead horse, but I think going back to that idea of moving magic up like this, he was in a constant mode of discovery, right? I think he was looking for new things all the time and playing with all these different switches. Aaron, and you and I have done this with other moves where we just play with the move and see what fruit you can get out of just playing with the move by just working it so hard. Eventually new ideas occur to you. I think that this was sort of the mode that Gary was in when all of this stuff was being created and again being recorded. But that's a pretty big innovation, bringing that stuff up like that, you know?
I think what you just said there is super important. You know, the fact that you just play with something until something else comes of it. And I think a lot of times you don't work something long enough.
That's right.
To either master it or to actually create something. Instead, what I see a lot is people try to contrive something different, you know, instead of letting it just organically, which is always the way to do it, really.
It's a famous quote of Di Vernon: magicians stop thinking way too soon.
Yeah. I didn't think.
I think if you've been doing magic 5 years, it's hard for you to conceptualize that someone could work on a trick for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're doing magic for 10 years, it's hard for you to conceptualize that a person could work on a trick for 20 years. But when you've been doing magic 30 years, like I guess I just celebrated my 30th anniversary, it's not crazy to me that a person would work on something for 25 years because that's how a lot of stuff is.
That's how it gets good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I think, but Gary Kurtz, obviously, he's got the hands, he's got the mind, he's got
the hair.
15 years of doing this stuff, and so he's got all these incredible things to share. Let's watch another one.
Yeah, this is another coin one. This one's good because it's looking at an older trick that David Roth really popularized, and he sort of has pushed it a little bit further. You know, there's a couple of new wrinkles on it that make it a little bit more special. It's pretty good.
We use these 4 coins to demonstrate a little-known magical principle, that being that coins are actually lighter than air. Told you it was little known. Not in their normal state. If, however, we render the coin invisible, it becomes lighter than air. I can actually hang it in the air, giving you just 3 coins. You only see 3 coins here, right? But you realize that I am using 4. The 4th one being here, hanging invisibly in the air. Coin like the first. I will render it invisible. Once it's invisible, I can hang it. Just had the first coin, giving you just 2. Fairly 2 in the air, 2 in the hand. The next coin. Routed over here. Hang this one by itself over there. We just won the last coin, one David Roth could never do. I rendered invisible. Hang it in the air.
your answer. Huh?
Yeah.
You may have noticed that I hung the coins in a very straight line, yes? So if I do this, it gets them again. Oh, sorry. That's only 3. I always miss the one over here. Yeah. And now getting back to what we started with. Nothing but a memory. Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Like, it's beautiful stuff, but it's really beautiful stuff, but you'd have to do, for regular folk, you'd have to do a short sequence, and you'd have to be contented that you left it at that. He's working so hard, he's doing so much, that if he just kept going at it the way he's doing it now in front of an audience,
and
there's an awful lot of stylized behavior in there. Go ahead, Steve.
Stop me if you guys don't agree. But I think the reason why is a lot of it just looks the same, right? Like, we look at it intricately, but really a coin vanishes, it appears. Like it, and that's pretty much all a coin does. And so that's what makes it so you can't do 10 of them in a row.
Well, that's true. And sometimes changes color.
Yeah, of course, there's all those little variations, but a lot of it looks the same. Like that little sequence we saw there just looks a lot like the first part of that other sequence we saw.
Right. And I think that goes back to the point that Aaron was making earlier when he asked Nathan about this. And I agree about this 100%. There's a coin section in the show, right? Yeah. Like, if he would have done just this, what we just saw with the hanging coins and then vanishing with the silk, and that was it, that was all the coins in the show, perfect. That would have been just the right amount, right?
Exactly.
But we're sort of in a weird situation where we're watching a lot of it because we are magic geeks. We're watching, a big hunk of coin magic here. But I think the truth is, you take any one of the hunks of that first routine that we saw, right? Any one of them where it's like they produce one at a time, they vanish one at a time. That's a hunk, right? That's an effect. That's the whole thing. And I think it's true with this thing, with every one of them. You can't give them more than, I would argue, 3 to 5 minutes, right? That seems to be about the limit. But right there, that's it, man. After that, it's what you said, Steve. It starts to all just look the same. You put a coin in your hand and it's gone, and now what? Right. Mm-hmm. And that's when you're at that point, when they can analyze it to that level, I think you're not doing your job as a magician, as a performer.
I agree 100%.
And I think a card guy or a card magician, such as what I do, I would never, if I went at such a pace and did it in such a way that it all blends into one, the same way appearing a coin, disappearing a coin. Look, if I'm going to make them appear, then I'm going to make them disappear. Then I'm going to make them appear again. Now I'm going to make them go across. Okay. Well, like the traditional, I think, good thinking in principle, assuming that you didn't have your own universe, your own symphony you're writing like Gary Kurtz, is the coins have to be solid, right? You need to make the coins solid. The audience needs to know they're solid, and then they can see the coin go from here to here. They can hear the second one. Now maybe they take 2 and the one disappears and it's in their hand. But all of that is based on this sense that the coins are solid and real. Mm-hmm. And in this universe where we're getting into this kind of coin magic, the coins seem to flicker in and out of existence. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's a different thing. So as soon as you sort of choose that red pill as opposed to the blue pill, you choose to have the coins melting in and out of existence. Now you can go into coins across, but it doesn't mean what it used to mean. It's now just watching them flicker in and out of existence in a different way. What Steve was saying, coins can only appear and disappear. Well, that's true. Coins across is traditionally it disappears from here and appears over here. And that's the sort of binary reality of it. But you see the way you would order your effects, right? You would never do that if you were in any way latched on to the idea that coins across was about what 99% of the people in the universe have ever imagined it could possibly be about, right? It's about something else here. It's
has
more
there
like
ever been
watching them appear and disappear. Yeah.
Has there ever been a magician that was like 100% coins for real people?
I don't think
Hard
it
to
works.
think about it.
Not one with a lot of depth and not
worker, like a worker.
Well, no, because they wouldn't do that because they know that. I mean, look, when we watch the hanging coins is a perfect example of a trick, which it's just death to imagine hardly anyone. I'm not saying there's not a couple exceptions in the universe, but you know, it's a trick where you've got no cover, you got no wand, you got no table. Furthermore, you got the coins, and the conceit is that you're hanging the coins in the middle of the air. And you're doing that so that you can justify the fact that really you're hiding everything right there, right? Everything is being hidden. So the trick involves, I'm going to take this coin here. And if you watch it, he's just moving those coins back and forth from hand to hand. And we as magicians can really groove on how beautifully he's doing all the stuff we know he must be doing to do that. But you know, it really is a exercise in misdirection and concealments, because the actual construction of taking these coins and just moving them back and forth hand to hand many times. So while the audience is watching passively, the whole thing is the kind of thing that a coin magician gets in big trouble with, unless he's a handful of 3 guys in the universe who would attempt to just walk up to a group of people and start doing that stuff. Right? And that's not saying that that's a problem with the 99% of magicians. That's saying that that is the construction of it will not work that way. People will give you challenges if you attempt to get through something so intense that involves them so little. Like the biggest weapon we have is that we involve the audience and they participate. In this situation where we're magicians watching a magician, and therefore we don't do anything but watch. But, you know, the whole construction is based on this action, and the people are meant to just watch it. And
it's always felt like it's a parlor or a stage piece to me for that reason, because I never, like, that's what you can get away with in a walk around, because they're too close and they're going to, you know, what's up with that? What's that? You know?
Yeah, let me see it, you know?
Yeah.
Coin magicians are very, very skilled. It is harder to do. The problem with coin magic is it's much harder to do the entry level stuff, right? The buy-in. If you can't make something disappear and still have it in your hand and have everyone feel like it really disappeared and they don't know where it is and their questions are answered, you can't do any of this. And that's like a big bar. So by the time you get anyone who's got a composition this original, this smooth, this incredible, it's always the tip of the iceberg. There's no way to get one perfect miracle without having 18 that are almost as good and another 48 that are the base consolidation that you built it on top of. It's just, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the closet if you can see that at the tip. You know what I mean? A lot. You know, like he's not dumping stuff out of his sleeves right now, but you can see that the coat has been a highway for many a large object to be done, you know, through those sleeves. A lot of magic is passed through those pipes.
Agreed. Yeah. Let's get into this last clip. This is a card trick. We'll switch it up a little bit and look at what I feel is sort of an interesting take on a popular theme that we all know in card magic, and he sort of takes it a little bit in a different direction.
Further than that?
Further than that?
An illusion now dealing with time, where time is like a river flowing from the unknown future into the present moment, into the backwater cesspool of our memory.
Like what we're doing.
Speaking of my own memories, of course. Start with a pack of cards. To begin with, your name again was? Still is. Rochelle. Michelle, I'd like you to choose a card from the pack to represent the unknown future. Slide it out of the pack, the unknown future. And so that it remains unknown and ever present on our minds, I'm going to place it into the zippered compartment of my genuine simulated leather wallet. We'll get back to it in the future. In the meantime, Robert, I'd like you to choose a card to represent the present moment. I'm going to dribble through the cards. Just call stop if you like. Right there, take the card, look at it. Remember, in fact, I want you to sign your name on it. So if you look at it at some future date, you'll be reminded of this, what will then be past event. Get it? In the future, he's going to look at it. It's present now. Okay. And place it on top of the pack. First of all, what I would like you and everyone else here to do is just remember this moment of your 3 diamonds, that is, Robert, being on top, because it's not going to stay there long. See, it's going to get lost in the shuffle. Now, at this point, I could go ahead and try and find the card, or I could. Well, really, we can't. Let's just say that we could go back to when your card was on top. See if we could go back to when it was still on top. It would still be on top. Yeah. But we'll go back. We'll go back to when it was still in the middle. Obviously, it's not on top now, right? But if we went back about 4 seconds in time, it would once again be on top. Yeah, but we'll go back a little further just after you picked the card, right? I dribbled through the cards. You said stop. You stopped at this card. Then I handed you the marker. Do you know why I handed you the marker? That's right, because at that point in time, the card didn't have your name on it yet. Well, we'll go back to before I handed you the marker, before you picked the card. Obviously, if it was before you picked the card, I wouldn't be standing here holding it. Oh, yeah, thank you. We'll start over again. Thank you. I'll just dribble through the cards, call stopper if you like. Right there, take the card, look at it, remember it. And you didn't, did you? You couldn't help pick the same card because time's working in cycles. Anyway, after you picked it, I handed you the marker, and after you finished signing your name on it, I asked you to place it on top. I asked you to remember this moment of when it was Robert was on top of the pack, and we lost it in the shuffle. I said maybe we could go back to when it was still on top, and then we did. And actually, I could go on like this all day, back and forward in time. But the fact is, none of this is really possible. You see, these are all hypothetical possibilities of a nonlinear flow of time. No, but there is one thing that is possible. You remember the card you chose to represent the unknown future? Well, it's true. In fact, it's inevitable that the unknown future always, eventually, becomes the present. Your souvenir.
Fun.
I love everything about that.
It's a great trick.
Good routine, man.
Good routine, great trick, great premise. It's using, ambitious card is just, it kills. It's just a stalwart.
But you can see how different that is.
Oh, yeah.
Than the coin magic in its construction. It got a whole thing to it. It's clear. There's a beginning, a middle, and end. Maybe it's the beginning, the end, the middle, the beginning, the end. But still, even so, it's a beginning and a middle and an end. It uses the person. So he knows the difference. You know what I mean? He's just a magician. Lou Enton was just saying that he knows a person that does 20-minute coin set in the close-up room at the castle. It's pretty, I would say that we could name a lot of folks that do that. Because a lot of people can do that because the Magic Castle, we weren't talking about the Magic Castle when we were saying what you would do for a lay audience. We're
talking about hitting a half-drunk cocktail hour.
Yeah, the
Magic Castle is like a hot audience.
Yeah, the Magic Castle is a magic convention.
Yeah,
it literally is
filled with regular folk who are excited to watch what we do in a very, very open way.
Highly, I don't want to say educated, but exposed layman.
Somewhere on our blog, you can find what we call the, is it our trick selection system or the audience temperature?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the 85% of what we have to not worry about, but worry about. The 85% of where the actual close-up issues in the universe is in how you handle people that are not really volunteering to see magic, that are having magic volunteered upon them. Right? When people are excited to see magic, it's different. And when they go to the Magic Castle, it's about as far over that line as it could possibly be.
That's right. They've been preparing probably all week. This weekend, we get to go to this place. Yeah. No one gets to go there. That's hyped up in their mind. They're ready. By the time they get there, they're like, yes, magic. And when we do magic at a private event, sometimes people are like, oh, there's a magician here, right? When they walk in as they're getting a cocktail. Much different. It's a much different vibe.
What I like about this particular routine is that each person has like a really magical part of it, right? So the first person just selects a card. It goes in the thing. So she's just left with that. I picked a card. I didn't even see it. Now it's in the wallet, right? Then the other guy goes through the whole ambitious sequence where he's participating, and then in the end we come back to the first woman.
And doesn't it seem like, as a spectator, like I totally forgot that the girl put the card in the wallet. So it comes as a surprise that the one that's in the wallet is the one she put in there, is the one that he signed, and it's right. It's
but
like
it's just
there's
has
a real
such a
moment
nice
there.
through line. It has such a nice through line. It comes back. It like foreshadows the ending at the beginning. It's just a nicely constructed routine.
And time travel is hard to make clear. And so what he,
it is.
What to me so lovely was that he really, each beat, the audience is able to follow it. And if you find yourself doing a trick like that, past, present, future, then this before that, and then that happened, then this happened, you find that that's a real challenge to bring the audience with you and not to lose them somewhere at Albuquerque when they should have taken a left at Pismo Beach. But it's so clear and so understandable. I think it's just lovely, Really a hard thing doing time travel card to wallets. There's a lot of them out there. Yeah, a lot of them. It's a whole thing. Card guys tend to like it, and it tends to be confusing for people.
Time travel gets muddy quick.
Unlike like that particular routine right there, I can see that be your bread and butter. You're just knocking that out 10 times, 15 times a night. It's all the really usable moves that we all do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, Steve, last word. You're a St. Louis guy, and I wanted
not really, but
well, you're from St. Louis, aren't you?
I live here. I'm not from here. But anyway, what's the question?
Well, I thought that your formative Magic years were in St. Louis.
No.
Where were they?
New Jersey. New York, New Jersey. I moved here in '99.
Now, did you feel anything in the magical water in St. Louis when you were there in '99?
It was pretty well. St. Louis has always still held a real mystique to me. I'm sure I've told the story before, but I was always been a member of IBM, and I used to get the linking ring, and every summer I would see the write-up about the Midwest Magic Jubilee, right? And so in my mind, St. Louis was I was 13, right? St. Louis was a mecca for magic, right? It was the place to go. How am I going to get to St. Louis? It was that kind of thing. And then once I moved here, it was fascinating when you learn all the history that's here. Like Paul LaPaul was the first president of Assembly 8, right? And that's just the tip of the iceberg of everything that's gone on and all the famous magicians that have come from St. Louis.
Harry Monty.
Yeah, Harry Monty and Chris Kenner and Chris Korn and so many, right? Brother John Hammond, he's the St. Louis guy. So there's just, there's just a ton of magic here. It's a very magic-rich town. So it was exciting. And then those people would come back, right? So Chris Korn would come back, and everyone would be like, we're going to this restaurant. Chris Korn's going to be there. You should show up. It's like that kind of thing would happen, which wasn't really happening in New Jersey. You know what I mean?
It's really interesting, that Ross Bertram was kicking around in Canada, being the coin guy that was in that group with Vernon and Miller, and all those guys were doing their coin tricks and stuff. And they knew Ross Bertram, who was like the guy in Canada. And I feel like during this whole time period, Gary Kurtz was like the guy in Canada who you would lump in if you were saying the greats of this time period. In this kind of magic, he was like doing the Ross Bertram thing. So, friends, you've learned a lot today about magic from Canada and St. Louis and New Jersey and all the wonderful things. So thanks for joining us today. But remember to do your part. Click the fantabulous follow button and that salacious super duper subscribe button here. And we'll let you know the next time we're going to share with you these astonishing videos from Magic's past and astonishing criticisms from Magic's present. We'll see you next time.
That last routine was probably my favorite thing that I've seen him do. I liked everything he's done. I was not familiar